Alright, so hi everybody, welcome. In this one we're going to make this, an audio player with React. Using the context API as the global state of the application, going to see how to list the array of songs and have the right functionality of them when we click on any of them. Also, we're going to see how to create the previous and back buttons and have the randomizer and cycle buttons. But mainly, you're going to see how to use the context API and a global player state to handle all the necessary things of the audio player. So I think this is going to be a long one, sort of a crash course of doing a lot of things in React. So I hope you enjoy, and let's start making this audio player. We're going to create a React app. So we're going to do npx create, and we're going to give it a name, in this case. Alright, so we have our basic application here. Going to remove some basic things to get started. We're going to start the development server doing npm start, and I'm going to remove from the basic application. I'm going to use font awesome to put icons in the application. You can get your own JavaScript link in fontawesome.com. Going to change the title. Okay, so first we're going to create the main component called audioplayer.js. Make sure it's in the source. All right, and what we're going to do is give it the basic function here. So okay, basic function. Don't forget to import the rect. So this is going to return now. I'm going to left it there. All right. Now in our index.js file, we're going to change up to audio player and import it here. Save. We see that we didn't export audio player, so we do export default audio player. We save, and we see that we have our entity up here. Awesome. Now I'm going to remove something that we don't need here. Awesome. Now we don't need to change the index.js file anymore, and we're going to center our attention in this one. What we're going to do now is grab our CSS files that I've created for the project, and we're going to explain the CSS. What we're going to do is have it all in the page already, and each time I introduce something, I will see how the CSS is affecting the element using the inspector of the browser. In that way, I think it's a better interactive way of explaining how the CSS is working. So what I'm going to do is drag those two files. One is for modifying the inputs, we're going to see it in a moment, and the other one is the main CSS for all the application. Now in the main component of the application, I'm going to import those files. All right, so in the main div, we're going to give it a class name of audio player, and inside this one, we're going to have another div with the class name of inside content. Here we're going to have the header component, we're going to have the actions component, and the playlist component. We're going to create this in a moment. For now, to not break the page, we're going to comment this, and outside this inside content div, we're going to have the controls. That is going to be the more complicated component of all of them, but we're going to go slowly so we can understand it. All right, so you can see nothing. All right, let's start with the header component. We're going to create a folder called components. I'm going to create the file header.js, and here we're going to have our header. First of all, we're going to import React, and then we're going to create the function of the header. So let's let header equal to function. All right, this one is very simple. We're going to have only a header with an h3 that is going to say React Wave, and later on we're going to put here the current playing song here, but that's going to be later. And to finish this component, we're going to export default and header. We save, and here we remove the comments, and we can actually, if you hit Ctrl space, you can go and auto import here, and it's going to import the header. Make sure it puts the correct name. So I had a little error here, so you don't need to put curly braces here. So it is only parentheses. Right now it's not looking so great because we need the other things. Right now, let's start making the actions component. So what we're going to do is first create the file here. But first, we're going to create another folder called playlist so we can organize a little bit better here. In file, actions.js, going to import React from Act. We create the actions function here. Let's return a div and let's export default actions. Save and remove the comments here. Control space, auto import, save. We should have something here. So to explain the CSS a little bit here, that we have a couple of things. We have the audio player that is going to have display flex. The flex direction is going to be a column. So the elements are going to stack on top of each other in a vertical direction. Then we have height 100 view height, so it's going to expand all the height of the current viewport. Then we're going to have the inside content that is going to have a width of 80 viewport width. Display flex, the flex direction is going to be a column. The justify content is going to be spaced evenly. Flex grow is 1, so it's going to expand all the space that is available in the flex element, and it's going to have a padding of 120 pixels. We're going to see that later is going to be because of the controls that is going to be on top of the page. We need some 120 pixel of padding there. Okay, now we're going to put something here so we can see what's up. So the class name of this is going to be, shockingly enough, actions, and I'm going to copy a couple of things here. First of all, we're going to have an image, standard image here, that is from Free Music Archive. We're going to have a div. I'm going to use the functionality of emit. You can go div.album. I want to get the name correct here. Album meta. I'm going to, then it's going to have a span and h1. We put it there here. Let's save and see how it's looking, and it's looking already good. Now we're going to see the CSS in a moment, and then we're going to copy this to keep it a little bit short because this is a little bit repetitive. We're going to have a div with the class of action buttons. We're going to have 3 buttons with the on-click of fab that is like a dummy function here that is going to print to the console, and we're going to use font awesome to give it 3 icons. Let's see how it's looking, and as you can see, there is our 3 buttons. Let's see how this is stylized. So we have the actions, I think, yeah. So we have here a flex direction and a lag items center. This is for, well, you can see in the browser, for the all in the same plane. And if you go here, the image doesn't have any styling. The album meta is going to have a padding, and the action button is going to be flex with a flex directional row and a flex 1-1, so it is growing. You can actually see it here. And if you do, as you can see, it expands the way, all the way that it needs or that it has. And it is useful to have that because the justify center needs to be all the way. Okay, we're making good progress. Now we're going to see how to make the playlist component. But before that, I'm going to create a folder inside the source called context. And here this folder is going to be the files for the context API, but first I'm going to create a file that is going to contain an array for all the songs. Okay, in practice this should be an API call, or some you retrieve this from an endpoint, but for the sake of this tutorial we're going to hardcode it here. So we have a song list, and we have a title, artist name, album title, and the file URL of the song. Okay, we are using Free Music Archive, and that's it. Now we can start implementing our playlist component. All right, as the other ones, we're going to do the same. So I'm going to do a bit of skip here. All right, so we have here the empty div of the playlist, and now we're going to start creating things here. First of all, we're going to put the class name here of playlist. Now we're going to use an URL list here with the class name of list of items, Loi, and we're going to here use the map function from the songs list, okay, and we're going to map songs list. We're going to give it a function. In this one, we're going to have the song and the current index for the song. We're going to complete the function here, and for each song, we're going to create a list item. And for now, we're going to give it a class name of song container. Okay, now we're going to import songs list from context song, and it's supposed to be songs with an S. Okay, so we fix that. All right, so I had a typo here. It was supposed to be songs underscore list from the songs file. Now, in a moment, we're going to extract this from the context from the player state, the general player state. But for now, to create this part, we're going to use it like locally in this example here, this part. I'm going to copy the content and explain it here. Let's see. All right, so we're going to have a first div that is going to be an icon that is going to appear in front of the image. You're going to see that in a moment. And then we're going to have the song meta playlist div that is going to hold the song title and the artist name. And then we're going to have two buttons, one to give it a heart and one to, I don't remember. So let's see. Oh yeah, to open like a box of options here. They are not, these buttons are not going to have functionality for this project, but they are there for an example, okay? So how this is stylized, let's take a look. So we have the playlist div that is going to be a flex, display flex, a flex direction column, and it's going to be flex 1 1. So it's going to go grow 1, shrink 1. Inside the playlist, we have the list of items that is going to be flex. No, it's going to have margin 0 and auto, so it's going to be in the center. Flex direction column, flex 1 1, padding 0, and width of 70 wayport width. So it is like a little bit smaller. Okay, so now let's see each container list. So you have two styles for this. One is going to be for the alignment. So it's going to align the things in the center. It's going to be flex, row, and it's going to have a font weight of 450. I think this doesn't do much. Margin 2 pixels from all sides, and it's going to have the cursor pointer. So we have the pointer, and you can select the text. So inside of each song containers, we're going to have the thumbnail song that is going to be a div with a background of the current album. It's going to be display flex, center, align center. So as you can see, the little icon is in the center. Then we're going to have the song meta. Again, it's going to be a flex and a column, so the title and the artist, it's side by side. And then we have the buttons that are going to simply have a margin right of 15 pixels. And that's it for the playlist. Now we're going to come back here once we have the context API, because we need a way to click the song in the playlist and start playing, and also a way of showing that who is the current song being played. So alright, so before doing the control component, we're going to implement the basic idea of the context API. We're going to need 3 files. We're going to need the player context, the player state. This is going to be a component, and the player reducer. That's going to be a function. Let's start with the context. So in this file, we're going to declare our context so we can use it in all the files that we need. We're going to import create context from React. We defined the constant of player context, and we assign the create context. Then to finish this part, we simply export it as default, and we don't need to touch this file anymore. Now let's see the player reducer. This is going to be simply a function that is going to be the reducer function for updating the state of the application. So we're going to create the player reducer. We're going to ask for a state and an action. The action is going to be an object that is going to have the type and a data attribute. So we can have only one function and multiple actions. Okay, so before doing this, we export as default the function, and now we're going to see what is inside of it. So here we're going to use a switch that is going to be dependent on the type of the action. I'm going to use case with the switch here. I'm going to ask for a string. We're going to match a string. For example, first, we're going to set songs array, and this, what it's going to do is return a single object that first we're going to spread the state. So we copy the whole state in this object and we change the songs to actions.data. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Action.data. Okay, so to better understand what this function does, I encourage you to look up the reducer function for arrays of native JavaScript. It is exactly the same, but instead of doing so the updating in an array to have a single value at the end. In this case, we grab the state and we change the state to have sort of that dynamic. But in a sense, it's the same. A reducer that grabs the current state and puts new data in it, and it returns the new state with the new data. Okay, so to save a little time here, I'm going to paste the whole switch here, and each time we use this, going to showcase it. But basically it's the same. When we want to set the songs array, we spread the state and we put in the songs the action.data, and for example set current song with the same. The current song is going to be in the action data, and we're going to change the play into true, and the same with the other ones. And as you can see, it's very similar to the other ones. But now we're going to see the player state. This is going to be the state of the whole application. So first we're going to import React. I'm going to import the use reducer hook. I'm going to import the player reducer and the player. Also in the player state, we're going to import the songs list, so we can have the songs in the state. As I mentioned, player state is a component, so we're going to create a function component. We're going to put the props here and an object that is going to have the initial state of the application. We're going to copy this. For our initial state, we're going to have the current song as the first one, the songs list as the song list array, repeat to false, random to false, and playing to false, and the audio. Okay, that's it. Now we're going to use the use reducer hook to update the state. So we give it the function player reducer here and the initial state. I'm going to use the state. That's our current state of the application, and the dispatch is the way of telling use reducer to execute the player reducer function and update the state. Okay, now in a moment we're going to populate this with functions, but for now we're going to return the provider for this state. So we're going to say player context.provider, and in the value here, this is an important part because all the accessible state of the application is going to be here. If it's not here in the value prop, it's not going to be accessible in the other parts of the application. So for now, we're going to have the states of the application. In a moment, we're going to put function here. So basically, we have the current song, the songs list, the repeat, random, playing, and audio. When you access these state variables in other parts of the application, the name that you need to put, the name that you need to refer to them is this one. So you can put different names here, and that's it. Now I'm going to close this, and I don't know why, but this was in a docs that I saw. You need to put props children. Finally, we export old and player state. Okay, it's not going to do anything because we didn't use it, but now we're going to go to audio player and wrap our whole application with the player state component. Okay, let's see if we have any errors here. Sometimes you need to restart the server. Okay, so I typed the wrong here and now it's working. So first we're going to go to the playlist. How do we retrieve the information of the player state? So I'm going to import the player context from, we need to use relatives here, context, player context. We're going to comments here, and inside we're going to change parentheses for curly braces so we can put a variable here. We're going to use the context. So we set constant songs list and use this context and the context. And we put here the player context. So what we're doing here, this is wrong. So what we are doing here is saying, okay, give me song list of the player context using the use context hook here. And this is a way of deconstructing the data that we have. Now to finish the playlist component, we need to go to the player state and create the setCurrent function. So we are here. SetCurrent is going to be a function. We give the ID and we use the dispatch. And give the dispatch the type. We need to copy this because it needs to be exact. But this we give it the type and the data is going to be in the ID. All right. Also, don't forget to put it in the value of the provider. So we have access. Set current. Awesome. Now in the playlist, we're going to retrieve song list and current song and also set current. Awesome. In the list item, we're going to change the class name and we're going to add here a little tertiary operator. I don't know how to say that. But so basically we're going to select the current one if the index match the current song ID. So if the current song is equal to the current index, we're going to add here a selected class. Otherwise, we don't do anything. Now we're going to give it a key. I think I'm supposed to do that earlier, but we're doing it now. An on-click event, we give it a function, an anonymous function, but because we need to use the set current function with the current ID and we say. Now let's see if what we did is working. So here, don't forget to give a space because we are adding this string to the other string and we need to have a space here. To make it more obvious, we could do something like this, but this is a little bit ugly. So don't forget to put the space here. And now it is working. Okay, so with that, we finished the playlist component. And now we're going to go to the more harder, that is going to take more time to explain. That is going to be the controls component. So I'm going to create the basic component here. So we have the control component here, and there is nothing but div at the moment, but it is already in the page, and as you can see, it's floating. So it is display flex with a flex direction on row, a height of 110 pixels, the background color of the text white, align items in the center, the width of the 100 of the viewport, and the most important part here, the position fixed to the bottom and the left. Okay, awesome. So let's begin putting all the controls, the functions, and the cool stuff here. All right, so but first we're going to create some functions in our state so we can control the application in the control component. First of all, we're going to create a function that we are not going to use, but for sake of completion, we're going to create it here to update the songs list. Okay, so we're going to put here set songs array const songs set, and it's going to accept the songs, the new songs array, and this is going to dispatch. All right, so with this function, we basically give the songs array, and the type is set songs array. What is it here? It's going to update the songs array. In this case, we need to change it to songs list. So it's going to change the song list. There you go. As I said, we're not going to use this function, but you could use it with an API or something like that. Now we're going to create the toggle playing function that is going to toggle between playing and the pause state of the player. So this is similar to the other ones, but basically here in the data, we check the current state of the playing. So if this is true, it's going to go false. And if it's false, it's going to go to the true. We can do also not playing. That is going to cycle also, but I wanted to do it a little more intuitive and visualize that it's going to false and true when the state changes. So this is triggering the toggle playing in the reducer is changing toggle playing. So the playing data here is changing the playing and it's going to start from false. Now to save a little bit of time, I'm going to copy this function and showcase it because there's no point in me typing it. Now we are using the current function that we have in a new function. For example, the previous song uses if we are in the beginning, it's going to go to the last one. Otherwise, it's going to grab the current song and subtract one. So it's going to go to the one below it. Now we have next song is pretty similar. We check if the current song is the length of the list -1 because this is an ID and this is the length that counts the 0 element. And if it is if it is the last song, it's going to set the current to the first one, and if not, it's going to go one along. Now the toggle repeat and the toggle random are very similar to the toggle playing, but essentially this send the toggle repeat and toggle random message to the player reducer. So we have here toggle random and toggle repeat that update the random and repeat variable here. All right, so for this last function, we're going to type it along. So it is going to be from the end of the song. So we put const handle end, and it's going to be a function. Okay, so what this function is going to do basically is handle when a song ends. So what we need to check for, first of all, we need to check if the state random is true. So it's going to go in this part of the if statement, and we're going to return the dispatch of set current song, but we're going to give it a random number between the length of the songs array, and we're going to do a floor here, so we send integers because these are going to be IDs in the array. We do an else here. If a random is not true, it's going to be normal. Now we need to check if repeat it is checked. This is a simple logic because there is a couple of minor things to look at, but the basic idea is to respect the button's idea and not make it that complicated. So let's start this part. So if the state repeat is true, we're going to go to the next song. We're going to use this function. Now, if we don't have repeat and we check that the current song is equal to the song list length, so it is the final song, what we're going to do is return with nothing, okay? And basically it's going to end the playlist. And we do a catch here if there's any errors, and we go to next song. All right, so basically these are all the functions that we're going to use, and to be able to use in other components, we're going to declare them here. All right, now it's the time to see how we do the controls. We're going to start by creating an audio tag here. And what we're going to do is, this is the important part of the audio player, is the audio tag that plays the songs, right? So we can do this pure JavaScript, but I found this way of doing it that I think is an easy way. So we basically here going to populate the audio tag with a bunch of events and control all the necessary aspects of the audio with this tag. To do that, we need a reference. So we're going to create a reference, and here to do that, we're going to use the use ref hook. So let's create that here. Okay, so with this reference, we can change the audio or we can, well, reference the audio tag and use the functions of it. All right, before creating the event, let's put something in the page. So first of all, let's see the volume element that we're going to have a div with a span that is going to have the volume icon, and then an input that is going to have the value of the state volume that we're going to create in a moment, and the handle volume function that's going to get the target value and divided by 100. This is the event. The target is the input. To do that, we're going to use the use state hook to create a local state, and also going to import the other hooks that we're going to use. So we have all the necessary things. Also that we are here, we're going to import the global state from the player context that we had. So all of these functions and values are the things that we have here. Okay, now we need to create the handle volume function, but before doing that, going to declare 3 state variable here. So state volume, the duration, and the current time, and this all uses the use state hook. So basically with this function we can update this variable here in a local state. All right, so now we're going to use the handle volume that is basically going to use the set state volume to change this. So when we change this input, it's going to be handled by this function, and what it's going to basically do is change the state volume, and it's going to change the volume in the audio tag. As you can see, this is the way we use the reference hook, and as you can see here we have, I think you can see it, the volume, and you can see that it has a little bit of an animation. Basically we expand the div of this div, the volume div. When you hover over it, it's going to expand. It's a simple hover animation. If we check the hover here, you can see that the width is 90 pixels. If we uncheck this, it's going to retract, and it has a transition of all 500 milliseconds, so it is an animation. Right, let's move along to the controls, apply and play, next, and previous. So we have here our music controls. We have a div with music controls of class name. We then have previous button here that is going to execute the pref song on the on-click event. Then we have the play button that when on-clicked, as you can see, we have here toggle playing and toggle audio. That toggle playing, this is the variable in the context API, and toggle audio, we're going to do it right now. So you have const toggle audio function. What this function does is reference the audio tag and change. If it is pause, it's going to play it, and otherwise it's going to go pause. All right, and as you can see, we have our buttons there. So we have, it's a little bit precarious. There you go. So we have our music controls that are going to have a margin left of 90 pixels and a min width of 120 pixels. Then there is not much about these 3 buttons other than that a little bit of styling and padding. When you do the play button, you can see that we have this class name here. So basically we're going to toggle between the play and pause icons here. It's a basic trick here. We use this operator to change, given the playing value, we hide or don't put anything in the class name. So we change between those 2 icons. All right, awesome. We have here our progress bar. Let's dive in. So first of all, we have the div of the progress bar. First, we have the song meta, so that is the song title and the song artist. So we get that from the player state. From the songs list, we access to the current song, and the current song we get the title, and exactly the same with the artist name. Then we have the progress bar that is going to show right in the top. There's going to be a progress. There's going to be a progress tag, and here it is some arithmetic that basically we need to have a percentage to the value of the progress. So we have the current value, we multiply it by 100, and we divide by the total duration. Otherwise, if there's no duration, it is 0. The maximum is 100, so 100%. And when you go on click, so when you click on the progress bar, we're going to handle the progress and move where the cursor is. So we get here the client X and the target offset left. So basically we have the client X is the mouse and the target offset left is where the left of the element is. And we have like a coordinate from the left of the screen to the mouse. And then we grab the offset width. So the total length of the progress bar. So the total width of the progress bar, and we divide by that, and we have that as a percentage. We multiply that by 100 and we have the percentage as a range from 1 to 100, and we give that to the 100 progress function. Lastly, we have here the time, so the current time and the total time. I'm going to this function I get from the web. So basically we give a total seconds to this function and it's going to give us like a nice format way. Okay, now we're going to see these two functions that we mentioned. First of all, the handle progress. So we grab the handle progress. First we compute. So I noticed that I was doing extra work here by multiplying and dividing by 100, so I changed that. So basically we have a value that is a percentage 0 to 1. We multiply that to the total duration and we have like that percentage of the duration. We set the current time to that compute and the current time of the audio tag to that compute, so to that value, and that's it. Now this function I got from somewhere. Basically, we give total seconds, and this function gives a format from, I think it is 60 to 60, like a format like that, right? Or 59, I think, to 59 range. So that's basically it. I'm not going to try to explain this function because I think I know how it's working, but you know, there is a lot of compacting here that I might not be explaining that well. So the function, it basically does that. We give it a total seconds and it gives us a nice format. All right, so we save this and we can see that we have our thing going on. All right, to finish the elements, we have our two buttons here that on the onClick event executes toggle random and toggle repeat, and we give a font awesome icon. And we use the same trick to make it an active or not active with this ternary operator. You can see that they are working. There is not much to this. That is a couple of divs with flex and things like that. Now let's start making the functionality so the audio player can work. So what events we want here? First of all, on time update, this event is when the player change the time. So when it's playing, we're going to give it a function. We're going to grab the event and we're going to set current time to e.target.current time. All right, then on can play, this is when the audio tag is loaded with the song. We're going to again give it a function. All right, and this time it's going to set the duration to the e.target.duration. So we have the duration of the song. These two functions are the functions of the local state, so to speak. Then on ended, we execute the handle end function of the player state. So this function right here. And that's it for the events. Now we're going to put some normal tags here. So the type of the song is going to be audio.mpeg. Then we have preload. True. So we have the audio preloaded. And the most important tag, the source tag. So on songs list, we're going to grab the current song ID and file URL. Okay, now let's see. As you can see here, we have the source and the audio tag. We can take a look at the songs array once more to see that the file URL, we have the file mp3 file here. Okay, so let's see if we don't have any errors and this thing works. All right, that's awesome. Let's see that the playlist is working. All right, so we have a little bit of a thing here. It's supposed to play when you hit in the player and maybe it takes a little while. So I think I forgot to, oh yeah. So I have a duplicate here and I forgot to include the next song. So it wasn't available in the other part of the application. So this should be working now. So at least we can see that that's working. So now that is all working, we're going to finish it off with putting the title on the header. So in the header component, we import the player context. We create, first of all, we need to put curly braces here and move this. But first of all, we grab the current song and the song list. We need to grab this and return it and put in the title the current song being displayed. And as you can see, we have the current song. So that's about it. I think I still have a bug, so I'm going to try to fix it. But if you look at the GitHub repository, this error here is not going to be there, so you can clone that and play with it and learn all the stuff you want. So let's put it in the bigger picture here. We have done this. So hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, consider giving a like and subscribing to the channel. That I'm going to make more project style videos like this, and also more development and general programming stuff and things that I like. And that's it for me. See you in the next one. Bye.